Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our last installment. We are going to be doing Q&A for child development, TK, UPK, and any other wrap-up questions you may have. Again, the presentation materials can be found at the tiny URL link here on the screen. Again, this webinar is being recorded. Please type questions in the Q&A. We will be answering all questions from the presentation earlier and then getting to new questions. And this Q&A session recording will be emailed out to all attendees. Again, please check with your monitoring authority regarding their requirements, and CTC has purview over granting and denying all applications submitted for review. Okay, so let me get to the first Q&A question here. I'll let the other panelists introduce themselves while we're starting. Again, I'm Amy Neiswanger with the San Joaquin County Office of Education.
My name is Stephanie Magdaleno. I am with the San Joaquin County Office of Education.
And my name is Nisa Ortiz, and I am with Ventura County Office of Education.
All right, thank you, ladies. Okay, so the first question is, what is the unit completion deadline for grandfathered teachers currently teaching TK? So the grandfather term means that you taught TK prior to 7/1/2015. So if you did not, if you were not assigned to TK prior to 7/1/2015, then you're not grandfathered in, and you will need to satisfy one of the CDE requirements. So either the 24 units, the professional experience, or the child development teacher or higher permit.
Question number 2, do special education teachers need to have any additional requirements in order to teach TK? The CDE requirements do not apply to special education settings. So those teachers are not required to meet the requirements that Amy just mentioned.
All right, so next question is, I have someone applying for an associate teacher permit and wants to use her experience as a yard duty supervisor. Do you think that would work? No. It has to be in instructional capacity unless they did tutoring and did some volunteer work in ECE.
Okay, the next one is, where can I get the verification of experience form? So you can get the verification of experience form in our Google Drive that we listed at the tiny URL, and we will post that again in the chat. You can also get the form from the Child Development Training Consortium. Their website is childdevelopment.org. So they have all of those forms there too.
Does the master teacher 350 days experience has to be in 1 year or over the 4 years? The experience has to be over 4 years.
Next question is, in our area, most of California, ROP has been replaced by CTE programs in high school. We have a child care occupations CTE program at our local high school, and they provide the student with a certificate of completion outlining all the subjects they covered throughout the year. Will CTE accept this as an approved program for a child development assistant permit? And the answer is yes, if it's in the HERO program.
Okay, next question is, can you please clarify what you mean by taking remedial courses to renew the child development associate teacher permit? It is my understanding that the courses, 15 semester units, must be in ECE only. So no, so they can be in ECE or general education. It's any coursework that's going to help you get to the teacher or higher permit. So I think in the leaflet may say non-remedial, but they will accept remedial courses too, because a lot of times you have to take certain courses to get to other courses. So again, just make sure any coursework is from a regionally accredited college, pass with a grade C- or better, pass or credit, and those 15 units should work.
Can you explain the difference between the master teacher and site supervisor permits? So the master teacher allows you to provide instruction and supervise all of the prior permits, such as assistant, associate teachers, and teachers. And they may also serve as coordinators of curriculum and staff development, where the site supervisor may authorize you to supervise a single site program and includes all of the authorizations of the master teacher, associate teacher, and assistant.
And you can also look at the leaflet and it does give you an overview of their authorizations, which is the CL 793.
The
There's
next
also,
question.
really
on.
quickly, there's also a really cool matrix. It's a child development matrix. And if you look it up, it tells you all the different permits and everything that they authorize.
Right. So next question is, can current multiple subject teaching credential holders meet the supervised field experience requirement from their student teaching? Or will they need to take a new course specifically under ECE or child development? And yes, they can use their student teaching as long as it was school age emphasis. If not, they will have to take ECE or child development supervised field experience course.
Okay, and I think my question kind of is about the same thing. Will student teaching in a credential program work to meet the 3 units for the supervised field experience for the teacher or higher? So yeah, again, if they're using school age emphasis, the multiple subject student teaching will work.
The next question is, would the requirements be the same for special education ECE? Again, the CDE requirements do not apply to special education settings. They apply only to general education early childhood settings.
All right, next question is there an email address someone can help us review transcripts before an applicant applies for a permit with the CTC? I would recommend contacting your local monitoring authority. They might be able to assist you, or you can maybe contact the Child Development Training Consortium and see if they can assist you with that as well.
Yeah, transcript review for child development permits is kind of a thing of its own. I know Stephanie provided some resources too, and they're also in the Google Drive of the coursework that the training consortium has posted on their website for all of the colleges, and it has all the core coursework on there. So those sheets are very helpful too. So.
And the Child Development Training Matrix is also in the resources in the Google Docs as well.
Okay, I have run into issues as to some nutrition coursework will work for ECE units and some don't. Can you please discuss which will and which won't? So most coursework that's going to count for ECE or child development is going to be under those course codes. So most of them are like CDEV or ECE, or you'll kind of know what the college uses. If not, you'll want to go to their website or their what am I blanking on? You can go to their website or you can go to their course descriptions. You can kind of see it from there. So otherwise, most nutrition courses are gen ed courses. So I know like with us for Delta College in our area, the nutrition course is a science-based course. So we use that for the gen ed science course. So it kind of just depends what the course is, but definitely it may or may not count for ECE depending on if it says child development nutrition or if it's just a general nutrition course.
The next question says, do any special education or psychology units count towards the ECE or child development units? If you're talking about the 24 units as required by the CDE, special education or psychology units would not count unless they are directly from the child development or ECE department. And normally those classes say something like special education in early childhood or psychology in early childhood. Now, if you're talking about these units counting towards a child development permit, psychology units do count towards the general education count. Special education, not often. Normally, those classes are education courses and cannot be applied towards child development permits.
Something else that I've seen is like Human Development 101 might be under psych, but other than that, I agree with Nitsa. I've never seen anything else qualify. And the next question is, do paraprofessionals that work in the state preschool program have to be an assistant permit, or are there other requirements? And paraprofessionals, it kind of depends on the job description per agency.
Okay, next one is, in what instances are these authorizations required? So I'm assuming you're talking about, again, child development permits. So most state preschool settings require a permit. So again, it will depend on the job, but you'll know if the agency requires a permit or not. So.
The next question says, for home educators / visitors, does supervising the parents they work with count towards the experience supervising adults? So if the people that you're referring to normally work for like a Head Start or say CDR, an agency like that, and that agency is willing to verify that they have the experience and that experience is, um, working with the adults would count towards the meeting the requirement, then yes. But there are many times where the agency itself will say, no, this doesn't count towards meeting this requirement, and it's not willing to verify or complete that verification of experience. So you definitely want to check in with them.
All right, so the next question is, for the program director, option 3, can an educator with an ed specialist early childhood special education credential apply via option 3? No, it needs to be an elementary teaching credential, multiple subject, or home ec.
Okay, option 4 for program director. So the MA can only be in ECE or child development. How about a MA in education? The CTC site says closely related field. Would that count? So again, it depends. So I've seen very rarely that an education master's would count without any additional backup or showing that the courses in education relate to ECE or child development. So if it's something that you're really wanting to do, I would maybe get a letter of support from the college if the courses don't clearly state it or the course descriptions, but rarely, very rarely have I seen just education by itself count. Our rule at San Joaquin County is always like, if someone says they want it to be sent and they're willing to spend the money, we'll send it for them, but we would never grant like a TCC or something with just an education master's. So.
Amy, just to add to that, I had a case where now education and master's in education, I've run across every single time it's been denied. The one time where it was granted is the dean of the program was willing to write a letter for the person, and not only write a letter, but they broke down the classes that were highly the emphasis was highly early childhood. And so they broke it down and they were willing to do that for her. And that permit got granted, but like you said, very rarely.
Yeah, we've had that happen once with us where the college actually broke it down and was like, no, this is ECE, this is our version. And they broke it down. There are like 30 classes or ECE for this master's in education, but it's rare. It's beyond rare.
Mm-hmm.
The next one says, is the site supervisor permit higher than the master teacher permit? Specifically, does it cover the authorizations of a master teacher permit? Yes, the site supervisor is higher, and the director permit is the highest, and that authorizes everything else. Then you have the site supervisor that authorizes everything but the director, and then the master teacher, so on and so forth.
All right, so the next question is, can you please send us the sample forms? And yes, those are in our Google Docs, and we will resend the link shortly as well.
Okay, does San Joaquin COE issue TCCs for child development permits that you process? Yes, we do. Not every agency requests a TCC, but if they do, we always, of course, need the DOJ fingerprint clearance from the employer, not CTC fingerprint clearance, but the employment clearance. And then we also need to make sure that the applicant has a valid certificate of clearance on file or a valid current credential or permit. But yes, we do issue TCCs for child development permits.
The next
Lisa,
one is,
do you guys issue them too at your county office?
we do issue them mostly, like you say, for districts who are having people work in their early childhood programs, or even for those going into like TK for the following year. But there are programs like CDR or just outside programs, public programs that just request a letter, like an affidavit, and we're willing and we do that for them.
Yeah, we do a receipt or a TCC, whatever they prefer. So.
The next one is, do transcripts have to be official and sealed, or can they submit copies? They do have to be official. However, as you've probably heard in the other workshops that we've had, they don't have to be sealed. The CTC is willing to accept the official transcripts, even if they are unsealed. And copies, no copies. And if they're using the PDF option, the transcripts need to be emailed to an appropriate entity, like the school district or the county. It cannot be mailed to the educator and then them printed. That would be considered a copy.
Next one is it 24 TK students per class or per school site? And if you look at Ed Code 4800G, it maintains an average TK enrollment of no more than 24 pupils for each school site.
Okay, if someone applies for a child development permit online through the Child Development Training Consortium, what do you require of the applicant to write a TCC? So again, whether it's through the training consortium, another district, whatever it may be, if they submitted it directly to CTC, we require all backup. So submitted. So we would want a copy of the complete application in order to issue a TCC to make sure the person qualifies, along with all of the other things, fingerprint clearance, et cetera, before we would issue a TCC at our county office. That's how we do stuff.
The next question is, are we allowed to have more than 24 TK students per school? And I think Stephanie just answered that one.
All right, and next question is, please confirm a person holding a STIP and a PIP in multiple subjects is authorized for an assignment in TK. Yes, but the CDE requirement is still required, either a child development permit or the 24 units or the professional experience.
So always remember, there's two requirements. There's the state CTC requirement, and then there's the state CDE requirement. So, all right, next one. To use the teacher was assigned prior to 2015 means that they were assigned prior to 2015 and have been assigned since then. So they need to be assigned prior to the 7/1/2015, but they don't have to be assigned continuous. So to be grandfathered in, it doesn't have to be like they stayed in the assignment the whole time. It's one semester or more.
The next one reads, LEA determination for years of experience. Have districts used 1 year of student teaching in a TK assignment as an equivalent to 24 semester units? No, I don't believe that to be the case. I think it has to be a 1.5 years of actual instructional experience. Do you guys have a different understanding of this?
So it's asking about the experience. Yeah, so it has to be equivalent to the 24 units. So I think full-time was 1.5 years and part-time was 4 years of 4 hours per day.
Yeah, I don't think the student teaching is going to cover that. I think it has to be instructional.
All right, and the next question is, we were told that you can combine hours and units if the LEA locally made a policy if this was acceptable. Can you clarify this? And we were told by CDE not to combine, but you can speak to CDE regarding this and gather more information.
Stephanie, I want to share that I also reached out to CDE and they were pretty adamant that you cannot combine the two options.
Okay, the next one is, can you explain the ETK permit during the Q&A? So let me do a screen share here. And let's go to the ETK. Are you guys able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I would go to the leaflet, which is the CL 909. And this is going to give you all the information you need on the emergency specialist teaching permit in early childhood education. So basically, again, it goes over the initial issuance, which is a bachelor's degree or higher, a child development teacher permit or higher. Again, the 24 units or a BA in EC or child development, and then also beginning this school year if they have 3 or more years of teaching TK. Obviously, a declaration of need is required, completion of the CL 908 form, and an application and a fee. And there is a one-time renewal. So here's the renewal requirement. So they need to be in currently enrolled in a program. So right now, the only program is multiple subject. The other program is still in OAL. And so hopefully that will be approved soon. So again, take a look at this leaflet and it definitely has all the information that you need regarding the ETK. Plus there is in my presentation, the information webpage on ETK too. So.
Amy, and one thing worth mentioning. I know our county has been getting a lot of questions, and I'm sure I'm sure this question is across the state. Is the declaration of need? As for those of you who process the declaration of need, you will not see a portion that talks about the emergency, um, this emergency permit. So the CTC will update that form eventually, but districts are already working on the one for the following school year. And we've been told that form is not going to be updated right now. So you just want to make sure that you have a declaration of need on file with the CTC, but you're not going to be reporting the permits through this form yet.
Yeah.
Kind of doesn't make any sense, but
Yeah.
If there's anything you've learned through all of these is, the commission has a lot to do and there's a lot of forms that need to be updated. So yeah, besides the dawn too.
the next one says, what do you mean by no combining units and professional experience for UTK requirements? It was stated in the notes on slide 8. Basically, what we're trying to say with no combining is there's different ways of, we've discussed the different ways, the 24 units, the experience, or having the child development permits. Whichever bullet you're going to be using to qualify your teacher, you have to stick with that bullet. You cannot say, well, I'm going to use 12 units of early childhood and 1 year of experience. That's what we mean by no combining.
All right, next question is regarding the TK teacher requirement. 120 hours equals 1 semester unit seems very high. Googling this question does come up with various answers, but the most common states 15 hours is equivalent to 1 semester unit, and 10 hours is equivalent to 1/4 hour. And our response is, this is information given to us by CDE. And if you have any questions, shoot them an email, and I'm sure they will give you any additional information or answer any questions that you may have.
Steph, if just in our county, we kind of did the calculation. So a TK year requires 36,000 instructional minutes.
Wow.
If you break that down, yeah, by and using the calculation of 15 hours equal 1 semester unit, a year and a half is actually spot on. So it's
Wow.
not 120 hours per semester unit.
Great,
Thank you for that.
Does an educator who is teaching pre-K or TK special ed need the TK authorization? So we went over this a couple times. No, it's only a gen ed requirement.
The next one is, what is your district equivalency option? And I think you're talking about bullet point number 2, which is when your district is using the experience to meet the CDE requirements. And as we talked about, a year and a half full-time TK experience or 4 years part-time experience.
All right, next question is, if an applicant has a multiple subject credential with kindergarten experience, which is 6 hours a day, how can they qualify for the experience hours? And the experience needs to be with preschool age and center base as a lead teacher. And this is, like I said, what CDE has provided, but you can also contact your local monitoring authority to make this determination as well.
Okay, next one is, if they hold the older children's center permit, would that be considered a teacher permit or higher? So the children's center instructional permit is equivalent to the teacher permit. I would have them switch over to the newer teacher permit just because that's what it says in regulations, even though it is equivalent, but that's just my preference. So they're welcome to switch over to the teacher permit. They don't have to provide transcripts. All they need to do is verify the 175 days within the last 4 years, along with an application and fee. And again, if the training consortium is paying for it, hopefully that will start back up in August. You can get that for them for free. So.
Before I go on to the next one, I want to go back to the question that Steph just answered about the multiple subject holder and asking about the experience. Hope you actually don't have to worry about the experience for a multiple subject holder because hopefully you're using option number 4 for the site supervisor permit, and that talks about that requires the multiple subject. Student teaching is what's going to cover your field experience, and then you can use units for the multiple subject credentialing program and 6 units from the early childhood or child development. And this is with the school age emphasis. So you don't need to worry about the experience. And I think that's what they're asking.
Yeah.
And even at that, if they need another course here or there, we've given you in the presentations, any of those TK courses, and we gave you 2 different examples, or they can take them anywhere, a child development course at a JC or whatever. So if they don't exactly have those 6 units in the early childhood child development, they can gain those very quickly within, 1 semester. So.
Yes. A lot of our teachers are actually using the summer to take the 6 units, and that's it. That's really all they need. The next one is, does the work experience have to be with children 0 to 4? Yeah, the work experience, if you're asking for a child development permit, it's 0 to 5 actually. With school age emphasis, it gets pushed a little bit
To 14.
But again, you're probably not having to think about work experience when it comes to school age emphasis if you're talking about a multiple subject holder.
All right, next question is, I'm not sure I understand what the school age emphasis is for. Is this to qualify for the site supervisor permit, or is this a separate permit? A school age emphasis is more of an add-on, and essentially the definition is coursework that covers the developmental and social and academic needs of children and youth, ages birth through 14. And if someone has a multiple subject teaching credential, they most likely taught at a school age emphasis course, which is why I also gave you guys that template that they can use that states, no, this was school age emphasis, this is the grades that they taught at, things like that. And this does allow you to qualify for the permit if you select school age emphasis on the bottom of the evaluation form and on the 41-4.
Next question. Can you explain the credential K-3 education specialist? So I assume that you're referring to the new one that is coming. And so here is the PK-3 ECE specialist instruction credential. So this will be its own standalone credential to help with, teachers teaching TK. So again, there's the emergency one now, but this one is at the Office of Administrative OAL. And so it's there for review at this time. So just looking at it, basically, this is what was sent to them. So my whole thing right here is what I look at is it's a summary of credential requirements on what it's going to be. So possession of a bachelor's degree or higher, completion of subject matter, which there's going to be a couple different things that qualify for subject matter. Some of them were just approved at even the last meeting. Completion of a commission approved program. So the programs are going to be submitting for approval with the commission. Passage of the TPAs, and then the RECA. So those are kind of like the main things, but it's going to be its own credential, and it will help with this TK to satisfy all of it in addition to the emergency regulations.
How do you know what classes fall under ECE or child development? It's kind of a simple thing, because the classes will either be out of the child development or early childhood department, or the class itself will say like child development or human development, like Stephanie mentioned. So they're kind of easy to recognize.
Yeah. Next question is, what is the purpose of having them apply for a site supervisor permit if the LEA has concluded that they meet the requirements? And the simple answer is you don't have to. There are 3 options, either units, professional experience, or the child development teacher permit or higher.
So whatever one works best for the LEA. The next one is the ETK permit, a type of permit for someone who does not currently have a full credential with the CTC, similar to how a PIP or STIP works, but specific to TK. So yeah, so if someone doesn't qualify for a multiple subject PIP or STIP or something like that, yes, the ETK would be an option for them if they meet the requirements, the bachelor's degree, teacher permit or higher, all of those. So yes, this is just an option. It's not anything that's mandatory, just an option.
And the next one is kind of along the same lines. Can we recommend a STIP or PIP holder for the emergency specialist credential permit in ECE, or is this intended to be used only for fully credentialed multiple subject credential holders being assigned to a TK setting for the first time post 7/1/15? And the answer is it's not really meant, this emergency permit is not really meant for multiple subject holders. It's more meant for people that don't have a credential. And if you, we looked at the requirements, it requires that the person has 24 units. The one of the main difference of this emergency permit is it does not require basic skills, that the person pass basic skills, where for the other ones it does, like the STIP and the PIP. But the STIP and the PIP are mostly used for higher settings. Would a person with a STIP or a PIP be able to be assigned to a TK setting? Yes, but they would also then have to meet the CDE requirements at 24 units or the experience. And so you want to make sure that you're applying for the correct thing, the path of least resistance.
All right, next question is, will a multiple subject teacher is currently teaching kindergarten through third grade be grandfathered in and not required to get a PK3 specialist credential? And they don't have to get it. Like we said previously, they have 3 options to qualify. This is just a new credential for people just wanting PK through third grade and not the full multiple subject credential.
So is the only difference between the emergency permit and traditional TK requirements just the multiple subject credential? And that is correct.
The next one says, does the experience have to be preschool, or can it be TK to qualify for the LEA 24 unit match with experience? As I understand it, it has to be TK experience. Do you guys understand it differently, Amy and Stephanie?
Does experience out of preschool?
Or can it be TK to qualify?
I understand it to be TK experience. You have to be grandfathered in, or you have to.
I thought it was TK experience.
So they're asking to qualify for the 20 unit match. So they're talking about the professional experience.
Mhm.
So yeah, TK includes like those 4-year-olds. So I would say, yeah, preschool 4-year-olds.
I think for this one can be a little tricky. I think this one might require that you reach out to your monitoring authority just to get like a final answer, because
There might be more backup.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so the next question is, as for the 2 adults for the TK classrooms, do both need a TK credential, or can there be 1 TK credentialed and 1 teacher assistant? Does the TA need an assistant permit? And I'm going to respond with the same thing Nita said, which is talk to your monitoring authority.
Yeah, our TK classrooms only have 1 teacher in the classroom. We don't have any permit people or anything like that. So I don't know if you're talking more of a preschool setting, but yeah, our TK classrooms at our county office just have a teacher, 1 teacher.
There's actually in regulation does talk about additional adults being in the classroom, not fully credentialed adults, but there is a requirement for those 2, and I don't know them off the top of my head because those positions are classified. But do check with your monitoring authority, because I have heard of this additional requirement for those classified people.
Okay, can you confirm that a site supervisor permit earned through option 4 with 6 ECE and 6 school age units and student teaching in any of K through 6th grade levels would meet the requirement? She asked with fingers crossed because most of all of her teachers have those requirements. So yes, that's how we pretty much qualify everyone, is through that option 4, where they have a multiple subject or equivalent, and then they do the 12 units. So half of them are in child development or ECE, 6 are in the school age, which are usually from their multiple subject program, and then their student teaching from their multiple subject program. That's how we do all of our qualifying.
Amy, and I'm surprised that this isn't the path that is mostly used, because for your multiples, your people that are in TK settings right now already have the multiple subject credentials. So option 4 and just the 2 classes in early childhood is really the easiest, fastest way to qualify someone. So
agreed.
And so if somebody already has a bachelor's and the 24 units of child development, great, then they don't need to apply for the permit. But if they don't, this is the path that you probably should be looking at. The next one says, looks like AB 1555 was amended in February from the initial extended date of meeting TK teacher requirements, August 1, 2028 to now August 1, 2025. Is that what you're seeing, or am I not reading the track bill website correctly? You're correct. So it's important to note that this bill has not been signed yet. It's looking like it's going to pass, but they did amend the date, the extension date. It's no longer August 1st, 2028. It now reads August 1, 2025.
Yes, my apologies. But things change quite often. And so like Nisa said, it has not been signed yet. So anything can still happen, but yes, it is 2025.
All right, next question is, if our TK teachers have a multiple subject credential and a child development permit, are they good, correct? Or are they having to get the TK certificate as well? As long as it's the child development permit's a teacher permit or higher, then they're fine.
Okay, what permit is needed required for state preschools? So again, it depends on the job, but most state preschools require a child development permit for their preschool settings, but it would depend on the position too.
The next one says, since LEAs may determine the TK teaching experience equivalency, we would like to pass a board resolution authorizing a combination of ECE units and TK teaching experience. Is this allowable? And I'm going to say, based on the guidance that we have from CDE, this is not something that you can have your board agree with and go through with it. You have to stick with one of the bullet points to qualify your teachers.
Okay.
All right, next question would be.
Sorry, Steph, that's yours.
Is what would be the purpose for the ETK permit? All of our applicants have teaching credentials, but not the 24 units of ECE. It looks like the ETK permit requires someone to already have 24 units and a child development teacher permit or higher. The applicants for a TK teaching position usually don't have a child development permit, just a teaching credential. So this is just an emergency option. If they do not meet the requirements for a PIP, STIP, and a full time teaching credential. In addition, they still need to meet the CDE requirements. So, it's just an emergency option if needed.
And like I said before, this is not for your multiple this emergency permit is not really meant for your multiple subject teachers, because if they already have a multiple subject,
they already qualify.
Units, right? The 24 units that the ETK requires, then they would already qualify. This is more meant for people. There's a lot of child development teachers that were in state preschools that were displaced from their positions because all those 4-year-olds are now going into the public setting, the actual school district that requires the teaching credential. And that's what this emergency permit, it really is meant to target, not people that are fully credentialed.
No, that's why it's an emergency option.
Yeah.
Okay, what needs to be submitted to avoid a CalSAS misassignment if the district has determined the TK teacher has met the professional experience? So CalSAS only monitors for CTC. So it is just for it. Do they have the credential to teach TK? So is that a multiple subject or equivalent, the emergency TK, the new P3 one coming, all of that. So CalSAS does not monitor for the additional CDE requirement. So
worth mentioning that CDE will be auditing for that. So just you want to make sure that you have well documented information in the personnel file. Although CalSAS won't be monitoring, CDE will. So you just want to make sure that you cover all your TK settings. It says to apply for the TK site supervisor permit. From your example, it looks like a teacher wouldn't need specific ECE units. Is that correct? If you're talking about a multiple subject teacher and you're just wanting those 2 additional classes or 6 units, correct. They don't have to be specific. They do have to be child development or early childhood classes, but they don't have to be in like the core areas, for example, or, the teacher can choose.
All right, next question is it best to make sure that a TK teacher has 24 units of CD or child development or ECE, even if they have a child development site supervisor permit? Nope, it's one of the 3 options that we've mentioned in the other slides or their comments.
Yeah, I was under the impression that for the site supervisor permit, the 6 units in ECE or child development had to be from those departments, but in your example, use children's literature course. So yeah, most coursework you're gonna see from the ECE or child development departments, but sometimes you will find it in other departments. So you may need a course description or if it has it in the course title. So it just depends, but we do use courses outside of the ECE and child development realm too, if it deals with children.
And the final question that we have here is, if someone does not meet the requirements by August 1, 2023, pending extension, but they continue to teach TK, would they be grandfathered in based on experience in 2028? The grandfather in portion of the bill talks about July 1, 2015. That's when you get grandfathered in. Now, if the CDE requirements do not go into effect in August 2023, and the person teaches for a year and a half after August 1, 2023, then you can use the second option and say, okay, the person has enough experience, but they're not grandfathered in.
Okay, so now we're gonna go to the questions that were answered. There's about 17 of them during the Q&A, and we will all give it our best shot here. So first one is, hi, if an LEA has reviewed a certificated teacher's experience and deems it has met the 24 unit requirement with the CTC honor this and grant the PK through 3 credential, or does the teacher still need to take all the units? So I can't give you any information on the PK through 3 yet because it's still in regulations. So we will definitely know more about that in the coming months.
Stephanie, do you want me to take it?
Oh yeah, you can take it.
Okay. Are TK students determined by their birthday or by being enrolled in the program? So the enrollment does depend on their birthday. So I guess it's driven by the birthday.
And how come the BSR is not required for the ETK permit? And I'm assuming it's because it's younger kids and not anybody higher than that. And it's not a multiple subject credential either, so that's probably why.
And the regulations for the new credential, they're not requiring BSR for that one, so it's probably trying to mimic that.
Yeah. And then someone wants to know, what is the HERO program? And it's the home economics and related occupations.
Thank you. I didn't know what that stood for, but
I had to look it up.
yeah, but it's definitely on the child development sheet where you check off all of the requirements.
Yeah.
It's the HERO program on there. So, and I know we have one in our county. So one of our school districts has one. So
yeah, so that's why I was like, I have to look it up. It's in, if you look it up in the child development leaflet, it has it in there too for that information.
the next one is, can you send us the transitional kindergarten verification form in Word format, please? It is a great template, but I would like to modify it for my district. So I assume that you're talking about our TK form that we use here at our county office, and I can definitely, I will type you my email in the chat here. So not in the chat, but privately to you. Although it was on my also on my presentation, you can find my email there too.
So let's see, the next one says, with AB 1555, are TK teachers who were grandfathered in, already teaching TK, required to complete the TK requirements? Is there a date they must complete this by? So if they're grandfathered in, then there's no additional requirements.
Yeah.
So yeah, no.
Next one states site supervisor, option 4 states an elementary teaching credential is 12 semester units in ECE or child development and 3 semester units supervised field experience. This morning it was mentioned that it can be 6 units can be ECE and 6 units in school age emphasis. Is this correct, or all 12 need to be ECE? No, it can be 6 and 6 or all 12, whatever you want to go for. It all kind of just depends. But don't forget option 2 for site supervisor is a bachelor's degree, 12 semester units, and the 3 units of supervised field experience. That's also an option. as well. And you can just check off school age emphasis if they have half and half.
Yeah, this is like Nisa and I and everybody we've talked about is the easiest way for those multiple subject holders, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. So.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead, Nisa?
Yeah, for EC units, do you think the following classes would be accepted? Art, adolescence, and the child. Introduction of elementary education. Applied composition, explorations in children's writing, or crafts and the child. The one that raises a red flag for me is introduction of elementary education, because to me, that's an education course. And we're
I'm gonna say
not
no for that one.
no
Yeah,
for that one.
The other
rest-
ones all sound like, they deal with children, so.
Yeah,
for
school age
show-
emphasis on the art and adolescence for sure. That's school age. Crafts and the child. I need to see course descriptions.
I was gonna say, you want to be looking at the course description, because that's going to give you the best answer. We could tell you yes right now, but then you look at the course description and you're like, oh, okay, this doesn't look like it. So you
Yeah.
want to be looking at those descriptions.
And in my presentation, I said, when in doubt, look at the course description, but I also gave you guys a template in the resources that says school age emphasis. And it has on there, like you can put all of these down and then take it to their school and they can fill it out and they can say, yes, for sure, this is school age emphasis, or no, it does not qualify at all.
Okay, the next one says, can you please repeat the 24 student per school piece? I know it was 12-to-1 ratio per class, but you're saying that you cannot have more than 24 students per school site, not just per class with 2 teachers. So we deal mostly with credentialing. We were just giving you the ed code for 48000. You can find more information there or talk with your ECE coordinators. We don't really want to give much information on ratios and things like that. We were just reading what the actual ed code stated. So.
Next one is we are planning a 2023-24 a TK center or site. TK will only be offered at this site. Is this possible? And I'm going to go with, I believe it can be possible. But check with your monitoring authority and see if they have anything else to say.
And these questions might be also for CDE. Just remember that although we're giving guidance, like Amy said, our job is more credentialing. And so you just want, and we're not going to be auditing for these new requirements, the CDE requirements. So sometimes you want to go directly to the source when it's a big matter like that. Also, most counties do have special departments for special education. I'm sorry, not special education, early childhood. And so that can be a great source of information as well. I know in Ventura County, we have one, and we're happy to help you if you want to reach out.
Are elective teachers required to meet any additional TK requirements? So if they're teaching TK, they need to meet the additional CDE requirements by the date. As of right now, it's 8/1/23. That could be changing to 8/1/25, or that could even change too. So.
For TK.
Oh, go on.
For TK, does the teacher have to keep the child development active? Will they have to fulfill the 105 hours of professional growth to renew? So the child development permit is going to be valid for 5 years. If within those 5 years, the teacher teaches a year and a half of child development, then you can switch over to the option number 2 to qualify the teacher. Now, in regards to the 105 hours, your teachers are probably going to be doing 105 hours and then some. So I don't think that you'll have a problem these teachers will have a problem renewing the permit if they choose to. But again, the district can then use experience, move over to the other bullet points. So although we say no combining, you can choose to later move on to a different way of approving your teachers.
The next question is, what are some examples of school age emphasis courses that would count towards the units needed for a permit? So I gave a couple examples in my presentation, and one of them was like school age development, and that can count as like child development. Another one, you always have to look at the course descriptions. I can't give some like at the top of my head, but if you look at the course descriptions, as it says, if liberal studies, obviously we know it's like birth through 14, for school age emphasis. So look at the course descriptions, look what it says on there. If it's like adolescence, then like, yeah, that most likely will count as school age emphasis.
Okay, I apologize. I think we skipped over some, so I'm going back up to the 225. We have a district that wants to use paraeducators' years of experience to meet the professional experience in a classroom setting with preschool age children. Will CTC accept that? So again, this is are you so this is a CDE requirement. So again, the CTC requirement is multiple subject or equivalent. The other is a CDE requirement. So basically you need to look if it was with preschool students as they were a paraeducator. So I don't know what grade level for paraeducators. So it would totally depend on the grade level, but it is in an instructional capacity. So it would just depend on those grade levels there.
The next one says, for the comparable experience of 1.5 years, would teaching TK after 2015 be accepted for this comparable experience? Yes.
Next one says, regarding the professional experience comparable to 24 units, doesn't it state comparability determined by the local employing agency? And I will say refer back to CDE and contact your LEA if you have any questions regarding how they want things done as well.
Okay, regarding the professional experience comparable to 24 units, doesn't it state comparability determined by the local employing agency? Our district has been using 1 year of teaching TK or below full-time to be equivalent to the 24 semester units. Yes, it is determined by the local employing agency. We are given guidance because we have asked CDE these questions. We've been on several webinars with them. So that's the guidance that we refer back to. If you don't want to use that guidance, that is completely your call. It is a local employing agency, but be prepared to support and have backup for all of that during an audit. So.
Is the ETK no BSR temporary, or will the CTC require BSR in the future? Right now, the way that that the regulations regarding this credential read, there seems to be no BSR requirement. But again, that credential is not valid yet. The regulations haven't been completely approved, and so anything can change.
Yeah, credentials change like tomorrow. So don't whatever we say now might not apply in like a year. So next question is, you keep referring to them having to meet the TK unit requirements, but aren't those not required until August and probably deferred till August of 2028? Nothing has been passed yet. So it's still in the works. So, we're still holding off and waiting to see what exactly is going to be signed.
Right now it's 8/1/23 and then proposed went from 8/1/28 to 8/1/2015. So.
And until that's signed, you have to operate in the mode of, we have to be prepared by August 2023.
Yeah, that's our best recommendation, is make sure you have it, because nothing's been signed yet. It could literally be taken off the table tomorrow and they're going to say, we're not signing this at all.
For the comparable experience, 1.5 years, would teaching kindergarten prior to the separation of TK be accepted for this comparable experience? Considering that prior to the distinction of TK, kinder teachers had 4-year-olds whose birthdays were between September to December in their class. I personally haven't been asked this question yet. I would say because it was kindergarten, no, but then some were combined prior to. So I would say definitely check with CDE on this, or maybe even your ECE department. I don't know if NISA, your county office, has a different perspective on it.
No, I agree. I actually don't think kindergarten will count. I think you have a better shot of using the pre-K experience than kindergarten, because kindergarten is just a higher grade.
Mm-hmm.
I have a teacher who has a ed specialist mouth-to-mouth credential and is switching gears and getting her multiple subject and teaching TK next year. She won't have her multiple subject until December 2023. The district wants to cover the TK class with STIP. Do you have a better suggestion? She does not meet the CDE requirements. Okay, so assuming we are talking, the regulations go on, and August 1, 2023 is the day where you have to meet the CDE requirements. You can definitely apply for the STIP. That's going to meet credentialing requirements. But you will be held to the CDE requirements as well. So if your teacher is thinking of going into a TK setting, she might as well complete the two classes in early childhood so that she is eligible. Now, that she is eligible once she has a multiple subject. Now, because she won't have the multiple subject by August 2023, the child development permit is not going to be an option unless she has enough child development units to apply for it. Otherwise, you may not have much wiggle room. Do you guys think of any other options?
So, I mean, besides a STIP, the only other options I can think of would be possibly a local assignment option as far as credentialing goes. And then obviously there is the separate CDE requirement. So if they haven't met that and they're thinking, like Nisa said, maybe they need to start doing stuff during the summertime. So
yeah, but they're not going to be able to apply for a child development permit, likely, assuming that this
Probably
person
not.
doesn't have any child development, right? They're not going to be able to apply for a child development permit. They're not going to have experience with TK setting, I'm assuming. These are things I'm assuming, right? So then you are left with having the 24 units of child development. That's a lot of units to complete.
That's a lot.
So,
Or unless
yeah.
you do the what is it, the 12 semester units and the 3, so 15.
yeah, so
Yeah.
they may not be the best hire for that position, or if they're willing to work with you on it. Obviously, we know that staffing is hard for all of these classrooms. That's why a lot of different requirements are coming in. The emergency one and then the new credential coming. So, stay tuned for all of those new things. So,
if the extension goes through, you apply for the STIP, you're good. But if the
Yeah.
extension does not go through, there's really not that much wiggle room for this teacher come August.
okay, so we wanted to thank you for joining us for our last Q&A. And we're right at that 3 o'clock mark, a little bit over. So we will be getting out all of these recordings. I don't know if it'll be later this week. We have a lot going on, but early, next month. And we will get all of these out to you, and there'll be some surveys coming out. So we appreciate all of you participating. And I want to thank Stephanie Magdaleno for your help, and Nisa Ortiz for your help, and Wes Johnson, our IT guy, for being on here, just helping us for any needs that we have. So we appreciate everyone coming. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you, Nisa. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you then.
Bye-bye.